What's your new last name?
Okay.
Good evening, and welcome to the 8th meeting of the Milton Planning Board. Today is November 21st. This meeting is being both broadcast live and recorded. My name is Emily Ennis. I'm the chair of the committee. Have the other members introduce themselves?
Alex Whiteside.
William Clark, Planning Director.
Diane Colligan, Secretary.
Bernie Lynch, member.
Peter Jackson.
Ed Duffy.
Great. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the past minutes. We have the meeting minutes for October 27th in our packet. Does anybody have any changes?
Well, I made some changes and then I submitted them, and now I'm going to see.
These are them.
Okay, let me just.
Double check.
Okay, I think that's right. I've made the corrections again on another copy of what I had, but these look perfect.
Any other changes or comments on the minutes?
I move they be accepted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, excellent. All right, future meetings on our agenda, December 1st and 15th, both will be at 6:30 p.m. Both will be in this room, the John Cronin Conference Room. The next item on our agenda is Citizens Speak. Do we have any citizens who wish to address the board? All right, seeing none.
What about non-citizens?
Do we have any non-citizens who wish to address the board? Fair enough. Under old business, the first item on our agenda is 597 Randolph Avenue. Bill, will anybody be
No,
coming
they're
to
still
this?
waiting for the church to come back with a new date that they'll accept that they'll push the PNS out to.
Okay. All right, so we're going to hold that one off. I'm not sure if everybody heard, but we are waiting. 597 Randolph Avenue are working with, the proponents are working with the Archdiocese, and there will not be a discussion on that tonight because they have not finished working with the Archdiocese, correct?
Right.
Will we potentially have them at our next meeting on December 1st, or is it just dependent on what happens next?
They're waiting for that deadline
Okay.
to get
To
pushed.
expire?
Well, what they would be looking for at that point is going to annual town meeting,
Right.
which means that this board would have to have something for them by the end of December.
Right, so with only 2 meetings in December, it might be incumbent upon them to
I
show up
will-
on December 1st?
This board having something for them would be in response for them having something for this
Exactly.
board.
Yes, I mean, I appreciate that they're working with the Archdiocese on a timeline, but they are supposed to be bringing a proposal for the zoning change to us.
I will bring those comments to them.
That would be fantastic.
And it
Thank
would
you.
be nice, Bill, if you were to, it just seems to me that the current zoning, which allows for 6 houses on that site, you could do something really quite interesting with the current zoning. And I think that it would be, if we were to give to Mr. Risquito some ideas about what he could do within the current zoning, including preservation of the existing house, that would be well within our.
You'd be looking to tweak your cluster bylaw.
What I'm thinking is this, that we've got all that frontage. How much frontage do we have?
I believe there's over 600 feet.
600 feet, and so you need 75 feet for a lot. And we figure that you can fit 6 houses in, but if you do you can make your lots next to the street with a building envelope, and then you can push them back and actually permit the houses to be built further back on the lot. There's significant opportunity to do interesting things within the current zoning.
The question is, what incentive might we suggest for that? Because I think
It's
he's
there.
Well, I know, I understand that. It saves him a lot of time and money and effort to do that, but he has already stated that he wants more density. So.
I understand that, but the fact that he wants more density, if he's shown that he can do something that's likely to sell, I mean, that's the bottom line. Can he do something that's likely to sell?
But
Yes,
what
sir.
about the, saving the corner for open space, though? Can we do that too, or be much
Well,
more diminished?
I think you can. You can do that. But
But under
it
the
would
current-
be,
yeah.
Weird shaped lots.
they'd be, they would. They would be pork chop lots, but they would meet the zoning.
But listen
And
to,
even if they didn't meet the zoning, if there were tweaks that needed to be done to the zoning to allow them to meet the zoning, that would be an easier sell to town meeting than
going the density.
when people think they need more density, they just come to town meeting and get a zoning change. It's sort of
I
like,
suspect that the economics of his offer to the church depend on more density. I don't think he's going to get it with single-family
well,
homes.
not only that, but if we're requiring him to save the current structure and we're asking him to do open space, and then we're saying, but do it all under the current zoning, I don't think he's got any incentive to actually do that. Under the current zoning, he doesn't have to save the house, he doesn't have to provide open space, he barely has to come to us, depending on how he splits those lots up. So, I mean, depending on how he does it, if he does a driveway for each house off of Reedsdale and Randolph, he doesn't have to come to the planning board at all.
he wouldn't get the state to allow the curb cuts. In other words, there'd
Probably
have
not.
to be a common driveway.
Which brings it into subdivision control.
Well, that's only, you could get 2 off the existing driveway.
That's
The other's
true.
on the other side.
I mean, if you've got 3 per driveway, per common driveway, that would work.
That would be 6.
But I
But
mean,
the point is, he still doesn't have to save the house, he still doesn't have to do the open space. If that's important to the board,
Those are A&Rs.
then, exactly.
If-
If those 2 items are important to the board, then a zoning change is required. I don't see how he's going to have the incentive to do 6 houses without that.
There may be a zoning change required for the common driveway. It just may be. But I don't think so.
That's where they get the frontage from the driveway?
Well, no, the frontage is on the streets, but
Right.
the state isn't going to allow curb cuts, so there would have to be a common driveway. But I guess, but even if, I mean, I don't know that there hasn't been, to save the house, we need to figure out how to do it.
Alex,
And
just one
provide
thought.
open space, yeah.
Why don't we, revising the existing cluster zoning bylaw to instead of 5 acres or 10 acres down to 5 acres, why couldn't we bring it down to what the square footage is there?
Well, we could if they can't,
Then that would give him all kinds of flexibility. He'd have to come to us, would, approve how the houses would be placed.
I think that would be, and maybe allow for 2 extra houses if there were preservation of a historic building.
We'd have to be careful, I mean, the same way with cluster zoning as with any other zoning, we'd have to be careful of the unintended consequences. There are a lot more 1 and a bit acre parcels or sets of parcels around town than there are 10-acre parcels. So we'd want to be careful that we weren't opening another can of worms with that one. I mean, writing the zoning for this is difficult enough as it is.
You'd use a frontage calculation
Yeah.
because they,
They have a lot of frontage.
no, I mean, if you gave them a bonus of 2 houses for historical preservation,
That would give them 8 units.
8 units, and they have enough frontage. You would provide, you have to have enough frontage for
The number
all
of
the
units
units.
that you're going to
And-
get.
And that's the only lot in town that could get the bonus on units, and I think it
Potentially.
is. I think it is. Get the bonus of units as well as have enough frontage. So I think that would be the way to, I will,
Are you tweaking the cluster, or are you
System.
looking for an overlay?
it would be, the cluster is an overlay, really.
Yeah, the cluster's there.
I mean, the cluster overlays the standard zoning. You can come in and overlay it with a cluster. So it would be, we would simply have a little special provision in the zoning for 2 extra units with historical preservation.
And preferably open space as well.
And
just
some
to make-
open
yeah.
space, and some open space, and I'm
Ex-
so thrilled with the idea,
You'll actually look into
I'll write
it.
something.
Fabulous. Fair enough.
You also have to start playing on paper, too.
What?
You have to start using some paper, too, draw some stuff on paper, not just in words.
Yeah, well, no, that comes later.
You might
I'm not
let
sure.
them
I'm
know.
not
Well, I
sure.
listened to the testimony.
I'm not so sure. But they lost us. They had enough of it.
I wonder if the sound is still going and it's an overlay on that. Okay, so you'll let them know that Alex is looking at potential cluster bylaw, but also they have to be
Revision.
here at our, revision, thank you. But Bill, they have to be here at our December 1st meeting because we don't have that much time to get their stuff together before the beginning of January.
But 8 units, it seems to me, if you could, I mean, a lot would have to sell for a fair amount of, I mean, why you couldn't squeeze $100,000 of profit per lot out of that?
Not a developer, not a real estate agent, don't know.
All right, well,
All right, so have a look at it. Anything else on 597 Randolph Avenue? Because if not, we can go to the other potential zoning articles for the annual town meeting. Did you, anybody want to speak on that? I mean, it's not a public hearing, but you're welcome if you had something particular you wanted to say on 597 Randolph.
Well, I was just interested to see what kind of a plan he came in with.
Okay, so we're still waiting for that then.
Quite honestly, we're encouraged by the reaction of the board as far as the goal of preservation. I was just, we were both in the commission.
Okay.
We were just interested to see what the plan was.
Yeah.
that he was going to present us on.
Okay,
We'll plan to hear that in December 1st.
that would be great.
Well, that's right. I mean, the preservation could include perhaps a couple of units and
There it is, Bill.
Yeah, the idea that we give some sort of bonus for preservation. Yep, absolutely.
we're encouraged by the reaction of the board.
Great.
Just a
Excellent.
question for the historic group. Are you people interested in helping in any way with like we talked about the Fletcher Steel Gardens up on Hillside, Highland Street?
We're open to anything. It's nothing that's been done before, but that doesn't mean it can't be done now.
Well, the garden club, they take care of all these corners and so forth, and you've got the society, you've got the commission, you've got a big group.
you want the historical commission to take over the house?
Well, who knows?
I think they don't have the funding for that.
Well, they could,
sort of
you know,
thing.
They need to go to town meeting and get a little bit of dough.
Sure, I mean, you know, it's,
When we
you
pass the
propose
CPA,
things,
then
I'll
we'll
step
have-
up and.
Exactly, which we will be discussing tonight. Okay. Great, well, thank you both very much. And you might just check in with Bill before December 1st, just to make sure that they're coming in, so, but we certainly hope they'll be here. So, thank you. All right, I was going to bring zoning as the next item on the agenda for the annual town meeting, but I see the group for Deer Run Lane are here, so why don't you come on up? We don't have a particular time on you, and you can let us know what's up. I see we've got an application from you. And then we'll do the annual town meeting articles after that. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Paul Sullivan. I'm with Echo Coastal Homes, 21 Smith Road, Milton. I'm just here to discuss request to narrow the asphalt of the Deer Run Lane from the 16 that was approved to 14 feet. I just think, after looking at it at the site, it seemed like 16 would be fairly large. It's fairly broad. I think it overpowers the area a little bit, and plus it would reduce the stormwater runoff, less impervious surface, and we're still going to construct it with structural fill out to at least 18 feet, so the shoulders of the roadway will be firm, compacted, drivable. but we'd just like to, for the board to consider maybe to allow us to reduce the actual asphalt to 14 feet versus the 16, since there's only one house really using it.
And did we decide whether or not this was a de minimis change, or whether it required a public hearing?
Well, we're probably going to, I mean, I think that I support this, but the question is, I mean, the plan is going to be on file. The plan is on file, or should be on file, with the registry, the subdivision plan. And so the street, I guess it would be, what sort of changes does your engineer have to make in the plan?
We won't reduce the drainage system, we'll keep it the same way it was designed. And the only difference will be the asphalt itself will be 1 foot less on each side.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have to be something that would go to the registry, that's just, you know.
Well, it's going to have to be on the plan, isn't it?
Have to be in our files here, I don't know if it'd have to be on the.
Well, I mean, if it's in our files and not in the registry,
Well,
in 5 years,
Our files disappear.
We could submit a new plan with the 14 feet, that's, you know, this section, that page, that's the
a
only,
corrected plan with 14 feet, because you haven't recorded the original plan.
right.
So
That would work.
you'll just have dirt on top of the,
Yeah, compacted structural fill on both sides. So we'll still go out the same width.
yeah.
We'll still construct the road at the same width, but the asphalt will be 1 foot less on each side.
I actually think this is a good change, because I think that's plenty of width to, you know,
Right.
handle the traffic on there, and it'll look a lot
For one
better, more
house.
residential in character,
Yeah.
right?
What do you think, Bill?
I agree.
And I think it's a minor change, I can't imagine going to a, you know, a public hearing and
So
things
we've
for
got
this. It's a-
just a corrected
Corrected plan?
subdivision plan. Of course, that, all right, well, I mean, I think that it has to be on the plan.
Oh, I agree. A corrected, so you give us a corrected plan and the registry a corrected plan.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't see any issue with this. I agree, it's a better change.
No change to the wall?
No, we're not going to change not the location or anything, no.
And Paul, there's a double, two-door garage, so there's a big apron for turning at the end?
There is a turnout, yes. The cul-de-sac is a turnout, so if you back out of the driveway of that
Plenty of
house,
room, yeah.
yes.
Is there a change to the apron area? Just
Coming in from Pleasant Street?
The special permit by this board says that everything is per the plans, and you're going to change the amount of lane width. Are you changing the apron down the end, or are you taking that same
I
2
would
feet?
probably taper that to 2 feet, too.
And take the 2 feet off of there, too.
Yeah, yes, I think it goes to 19 foot at one point, so it'd be 17 feet.
So you're gonna take it all off of the, you're gonna put it down the middle, or you're gonna put it on the Driscoll side?
I just take a foot off each side.
Okay. What do you do, how do you do that in the apron area?
I don't have the apron.
In the circle.
Take a foot here and a foot here.
Well, we just pull this,
You can't pull that out.
no, we go back
All right, you're gonna take this back a foot too?
on
Right.
both sides, yeah.
Now with the-
A revised plan, yes.
Right.
Okay, the correction plan, and then we're going to presumably have I mean, we filed a written decision, right? It's not on the plan?
We have a plan that, the written.
Is everything on the plan?
Yes.
Okay, so everything's on the plan, so the correction plan will have everything
Everything
on
on
it
it,
when we
yes.
sign it.
Yes. Will be constructed per the plan.
Any other questions from board members?
Except the plan is going to be the
Revised
correction plan. So we'll sign
Or
another one.
revised.
Sign another one of
Such and
those.
such
Yeah.
date.
Okay,
All right.
all right, so we'll reference the new plan on that. Okay, I think we can do
I make a
that.
motion that we,
Whoa, we've got people here. So this is not a public hearing, but did you have questions on this or concerns?
It's on the wall.
Okay, so please let us,
On the wall? I mean, if they've got questions, we
No,
can,
they don't.
yeah,
The original request was to do something with the retaining wall
right.
versus a slope. The application before you says nothing about a wall, and I guess you pulled that back?
Okay, so you're not changing the wall?
Yes.
The wall will be
Does
in.
that answer the question? Okay, great, excellent. All right, Pete, go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept the proposal to modify the width of the driveway at Deer Run Lane from 16 feet to 14 feet wide, and that a plan showing the changes would be filed with the board and the registry to memorialize this change.
with a decision, and it's the width of the pavement you're referring to.
Right, the width of the pavement, yes.
Okay, and then we'll alter our written decision and re-sign it at our next meeting if we get the plan by then. So it would be the plan by the 1st, if you can do that.
Okay, great.
So, and we can sign it then. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let us go through the last item on our agenda, which is potential zoning articles for the annual town meeting, May 2012. So at my last count, I had 7 articles, 7 potential articles. So-
Can we enumerate those?
Yes,
Or
I'm
are we
going
going
to
to go through them one at a
enumerate
time?
this.
Okay.
I'm going to enumerate them and go through
Okay.
them one at a time. So we have 2 requests from the building commissioner. One is accessory structures, are things like pool filters and air conditioning units considered to be accessory structures? Should they be considered that? The second one from him is about commercial vehicles parked on the public street, and are those, to clarify whether those are considered the same as commercial vehicles parked in driveways under the zoning or not, i.e., which is he enforcing those or not? He just needs clarification. And if he needs it one way, we have to go to town meeting. If he needs it the other way, we don't. So those 2. Then we have assisted living zoning discussion, which I note we have as a future item on December 1st. And the other thing that we have is change to the home occupation bylaw for businesses, which I believe we will also be hearing about December 1st.
And who's sponsoring those? Are they asking us to sponsor them?
Assisted living, we're being asked to sponsor them. It's being brought forward initially by Bob Sheffield, and I believe Ned Corcoran also has language that he'd like us to look at that. I haven't seen both side by side to see what the differences are, but I'm sure we'll get to do that. The homeowner's home occupation is Ned Corcoran is bringing that forward, and I guess asking us to sponsor it. So that's 2, 4, 5 is 597 Randolph Avenue. 6, you will find in your packets today, and
Yes.
that is to see what sum of money town meeting will appropriate for a master plan under Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81D, and to act on anything related thereto. And I am proposing this to be discussed by the board. The other thing that I will propose but don't have tonight is bed and breakfast. Zoning to allow bed and breakfast in Milton. And I thought I'd get a chance to write that this weekend, and I didn't, but I will have it for December 1st. Eddie, I see your hand up.
Does anybody remember when we changed the zoning to allow home occupation?
Yes.
What year?
I don't remember the year, but it was, I was either on the board or on the warrant
6 years
committee.
ago.
Yeah, I may have still been on the warrant committee for that one.
Roughly 6 years ago?
I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Thank you.
So We're going to go through those one by one?
Absolutely.
Tonight?
Well, briefly tonight to at least set up the issues. Some of them we may be able to go ahead and decide on. So for example, accessory structures.
Or you know, I mean, what's the issue, Bill?
Accessory structures meaning pool filters, AC, generators, geothermal pumps. I actually got a call last Thursday about siting a geothermal pump and a generator on a site.
Wow.
It just,
But they shouldn't, they should be,
we don't have setbacks in
You
our,
can put it almost right on the line.
I understand that, but
Screw
if
your
you
neighbor.
say it can be within 10 feet, that's just as bad. I mean, they should be, they should not only be set back, but they should be,
Screened?
well, there should be a berm or something around them to keep the noise down.
Berm might not always be practical. What about a fence?
Or
Or plantings or
something
but we
to,
don't have any.
So the question is, should we?
Exactly, which is
Should
why-
we
why it was
require?
brought forward because of particularly AC units and pool filters,
Those can get noisy.
the AC units especially.
and, but as I say, if you just say they have to be outside of the setback area, you haven't addressed the problem because the setback area is not that great.
I'd like to see another town's bylaw, see how
Yeah,
other
see how the
people-
towns have handled it.
Okay.
But I do think that it's the noise we're really concerned about rather than the placement. It's not the visual
Be
so much.
smell,
It's
if it's
not,
a gas generator, I mean, you know.
but it is the noise. The visual isn't as important as the noise
Smell.
and the smell for the gas generators.
So you want to see other
So
towns' bylaws?
it may be we want to go
Why
beyond,
reinvent the wheel?
beyond what the building commissioner is suggesting here to
Okay.
deal with noise.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this one?
So it's sighting and noise is what you're going after.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sighting is fine, but it should be,
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay. Any other thoughts on this one? So we'll dredge up some other towns' bylaws and
Sure.
see what we have on that.
It's more than just noise and it's got to be smell. I mean, how is it going to affect the neighbors? It could be smell, it could be,
Well, and visual's important too. I know
Visual,
you
sure,
said
this-
not visual, but visual can be important.
well, I said noise is probably more important, but these freestanding air conditioning units on the,
Right.
right in, on the sidewalk are, they can be visually obtrusive as well as noisy and smelly.
Okay.
So it may be that we come up with something a little more comprehensive.
So if there's nothing else on that, what about commercial vehicles on the public street?
And what is
How is
the,
that a zoning issue?
what's the
This-
suggestion?
This is, I guess this is the question, and Bill, correct me if I stray off here. Currently, if you are parking, you can't park a commercial vehicle in a driveway, you have to garage it, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, people have complained about commercial vehicles being parked on the street for long periods of time.
You mean during the day?
During the day, yes, exactly, because
They're not
obviously
allowed
during the night,
overnight.
they're not allowed overnight. So the building commissioner, as I understand it, wants to know if he should be enforcing this or not. And if he should be enforcing it, there needs to be a zoning
some standard. Yeah.
bylaw.
Enforcing what?
Enforcing getting commercial vehicles off the street during the day. And if he should not be enforcing it, then obviously we don't need to change the zoning, but he just wants it clarified. Is this consistent with what you remember, Bill?
He is just looking for guidance to it.
Okay.
I'm not sure he has an answer.
I
for
don't
it
think
either.
it's a zoning issue. It may be a traffic commission issue,
General
it may be a
bylaw.
police issue,
A general
but I don't think
bylaw.
it's a zoning issue
Well,
because it's
Why don't
on
you
the
have him
public
write
right
it?
of way.
I think it
Submit it
is
to
a
us.
general bylaw issue, but you know, when you call up a painter in a C zone and they come and park in front of
Paint your
your
house?
house, and then they paint it.
Yeah,
Having them get a ticket for that seems,
Right.
this is my problem
Guess
with
who's
the
paying
issue.
ticket? You want your house painted? Like, you
Well,
have to.
yeah,
park the
that,
truck.
Yeah, exactly.
these are tickets, it's going to take 5 days.
I mean, somebody
days,
working
everybody.
at your house is one thing. If they're talking about people who have a commercial business,
Yeah.
you know, operating out of their house, even if it's illegally or whatever, and every day their trucks are parked there, bringing their truck home and leaving it there during the day, you know, then I think that's a police enforcement thing, really.
Yeah,
mean,
I
if
don't
somebody's working on
see-
my house,
Yeah.
let them park there. I mean,
I couldn't see it being a planning board issue. You know, I've.
Well, it's an
been-
issue with him, so,
Yeah, but I mean, as
think
far as
it's our-
clarifying, saying if we don't feel that it's a zoning issue, that gives him guidance. And that
I-
that allows him to
Then
say
the
when people
traffic
call,
commission
I
maybe
am
should
not.
take it out.
Regulation of the public streets, which I
Yeah.
think is
The
a
traffic
general
lights.
bylaw.
Yeah.
I understand
provision.
what Pete's saying, though. If you own the truck and you're parking it in front of your house all day, and I know there's a few streets around, because traffic commission met this morning, and that was an issue. There's one particular street that the people are bringing the truck home, they park in front of the house all day. And it's a residential neighborhood, they're not
Right.
supposed to have the truck, they're not supposed to be working out of their house. Why is the truck there? I haven't got a clue.
But it's still not a zoning
because the
issue.
economy's bad.
that's right.
Okay,
And they work at night, they take the
Okay.
truck out at night and work, whether
Yeah.
it's their truck or not.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of issues, but I don't see it as being a zoning issue.
Fine.
I
I
agree.
think
Okay,
Yeah, it's a-
general bylaw.
But we accept pushback. We
Yeah,
expect
we do,
pushback.
yeah,
okay.
We just need to know why it's a zoning issue,
that's right.
because we think that it isn't.
We think it is a public
But we are
good issue.
open and receptive.
Have
to
Joe
ideas.
write it and submit it to us, and let him go to these other towns and see how they do it.
It'll probably turn out to be a general bylaw. Okay, so that one's a general bylaw. So 597, assisted living and home occupation, we are all waiting on the language for, which we should get December 1st. Bed and breakfast, we are waiting on the language for, but I'm happy to hear comments on the idea. And master plan, you've got it in front of you, because that was a really easy one to write.
On
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well,
on the assisted living, have you looked up how other towns deal with assisted living facilities?
Yes, I have a file that I was supposed to be going over with Ned this week.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be interested
Next.
to see how other towns have handled that.
I have several other towns.
And can we add home occupation to that list as well? Because I would be interested to
Let's
see.
plagiarize everything.
Hey, why reinvent the wheel?
I did the assisted living. I did the bed and breakfast. You want me to go do?
Ned had
what now?
submitted something on and I couldn't find it, so I
Oh,
Bob
it may be on
Sheffield
my.
had on assisted
oh,
living.
yeah, but he was going to go back and do it again, and I
Yeah.
told Ned to,
Take a
I mean,
look
they
at it.
both have clients who want to do assisted living facilities, and it seems to me only one of them is likely to do it.
Are these typically for-profit businesses, or are they nonprofit?
That becomes the issue. They are for-profit. As written, each of your assisted living now is for nonprofit. I believe what you'll wind up doing is you'll have another D, it'll be like a D3, and the D3 would allow for a for-profit company.
Get the tax revenues.
But it would have to, once again, it would have to be sort of site-specific, because we don't want them popping up anywhere. And the sites are different. So.
A challenge for us.
Well, and the two lawyers are each going to come up with their own thoughts on good language. So we'll
That
have lots
fits
to
their
work with.
respective site.
As I said, a
Fit their
challenge for
respective
us.
sites,
So
exactly.
we'll modify it so it fits neither of their sites.
Well, no, I think that we'll probably have to consider which, well, we'll
We'll
consider
see
it.
what they bring to us, and then we'll have a discussion about it. So, All right, anything else on assisted living? Anything on home occupation?
It seems to me that, I mean, here we're talking about, potentially 7 zoning articles. That's a lot to try to do
Too
in the
many.
next, in the short amount of time we have to do them.
Well, I mean, we can do them, but the town meeting would get cranky after 1 or 2.
Well, and not only that, but if we have to write these things, submit them to
And
get
hear
on a
them.
warrant, and then have a hearing for all these things, I just don't know. But-
Especially big ones.
Well,
The
I'm down to
Assisted living is a big
6
one.
at the moment.
Home
So
occupation.
I've taken out the
Big.
commercial vehicles, so we're down to 6.
I don't know when we've ever had that kind of
Never.
number of zoning
Well, we
articles.
have, but it's been a while.
We have actually, in fact, we've had a dearth of zoning articles for the last couple of years, so people should be looking forward
Ready
to
for
some
more.
really good, solid zoning
Have
articles.
3 nights of town meeting just on zoning.
They'll love it. So, home occupation, any thoughts on that, or you want to wait and see the language?
What is the crux of what he wants? There is someone up near the high school who wants to do a dance
The
studio or
yoga, I
something?
believe it is. The current home occupation, you are restricted to having your business within the house. And so one of the possibilities is to allow you to have your business in an accessory building as opposed to in the house. I think there might have been a square footage change as well. I
Yes.
believe the current square footage is restricted, and there might be an increased square footage. I do not believe that there was a change in the types of home occupation, just in the location and the square footage. That's
What
all we
about,
discussed.
I mean, yoga, it seems to me you need participants.
Well, yes.
So this would be, I mean, the current home occupation is sort of non-participant home
We
occupation.
will have to check
So
that out,
this is a
yes.
this adds to
Traffic.
Parking.
traffic,
Parking.
et cetera. So it's going to be tricky.
Well,
We've got
we
to
will
look
have
at
to
it.
see the language that's brought forward to us.
I will just mention that a lady came to me in the past month or so, and she happens to be a lawyer too, and she wasn't aware that we had a home occupation on the books. And right next door to her, there is a home occupation going on. And I wasn't aware of it, so that's why I say it's fooled me too. But parking can certainly be an issue, and even one car can be an issue with parking if it's one car all day long, different people coming and going. So I think it's more than double in size in the proposed language.
They're saying 1,000 square feet, and
1,000
now
square
it's
feet.
400 square
Yeah,
feet.
more than
Going to
double,
1,000.
There's also very strong restrictions on parking and, people coming to the house to do the business. So,
Yeah, there were restrictions on delivery as well, though now that everybody gets stuff from Amazon, it's harder to tell what's delivery for a business versus delivery from home. But yeah, there were quite a lot of
There's a lot of
restrictions.
stuff,
So we're going to have to look at that one carefully.
And Madam Chair, as long as we're talking about, well, I'll wait till we go to the next one.
Okay.
The B&B.
Okay.
Thank you.
So B&B, I do not have the language yet. I have seen a couple of towns. Bill's been researching more for me. I do remember the last time I brought this up that Alex made the valid point of ensuring that they stay B&Bs and not become boarding houses. So you have to put restriction on length of stay. Obviously, you have to have parking regulations. The Board of Health would cover it. We'd probably get, I think, hotel tax for the town from it. But my thought has been, I've had several thoughts of this. One is with Milton Academy and Curry College in the area. I think B&Bs make a lot of sense because we would have a market there. We're very close to Boston on the Red Line. We've got the Blue Hills, so it's attractive to people wanting to visit those sites. So I see a market for it. I see it as a way of allowing people to buy the larger homes in Milton and preserve them without necessarily breaking them into condos, or worse yet, splitting up the properties or knocking down the houses. We've got some beautiful homes here, and I think B&Bs could be a fine use. Obviously, we would have to make sure that there's sufficient off-site parking. We'd have to figure out what other regulations are
They could
involved.
just bulldoze the rose garden and put it there.
Bulldoze.
By Fletcher Steel Garden?
No,
Exactly.
No.
And that would be the Fletcher Steel bed and breakfast.
There you go. Ouch. So at any rate, and the final thing was, in the famous master plan survey, I'll get to you in a second, people were actually interested in looking at this. So I would like to bring it forward to the town. So I've been waiting a couple of years to do it, and it looks like a reasonable time.
We've been very excited about when we get our summary of the essay questions on the
Wow.
town
Based
meeting.
on that summary, we might find an interest in bed and breakfast.
Yes. Oh, it wasn't actually in that. It was in the quantitative. But if you support the next article I'm bringing forward, you might actually get that summary, Alex. Eddie, you had a question.
I want to go back to B&Bs.
Yes, please.
Okay. In the past few months, again, somebody has come to me regarding this issue. People coming and staying in a house, maybe a room in the house or the second, if it's a two-family house. And I went to the building commissioner, I asked him, is this, what's allowable under the law? And he started to tell me that there's a new phenomenon wherein somebody has to come to Boston for, let us say, medical reasons with their
Right.
child, and they come from Wisconsin. Rather than stay in the Boston hotels and so forth, they'll stay in a residential house.
Right.
And it may be, as I say, a two-family house, they'd be in the two-family section of the house, the owner might be in the first section. And according to him, he thinks that's perfectly okay, and it may be okay in the state law, but I don't think we have anything on the books that covers it for us. Bill, can you tell me anything about that?
Well, if it's a two-family and the person's in one of the units, then what's wrong with that?
Well, here's what's wrong, Al.
What?
You can have no more than 3 non-related people. You
Well,
can
if
have
it's
a
a
quasi
multi-unit
boarding house.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
it's a two, if it's a
two
two-family and they're staying in one of the
family
families, they're fine.
House, if it's a one-family house, that's something else.
Here's the phenomenon.
Also,
That's
there's only one
boarders.
kitchen.
That-
There's only one
You
kitchen.
can take in boarders.
I have a neighbor that does that right now.
Takes in boarders?
He works with the Partners Healthcare, the patients that have,
Borders are allowed, as Alex says, as long as it's no more than a certain number of non-related.
sure, you can
People,
do it in your
that's-
house.
that's
I think it's
I mean,
two.
sure.
Two now?
Three? I think it's
Two.
two.
I
Two
think
or
we
three, yeah,
dropped
two.
it down from 3 to 2, I think, a few years ago. But Bill, this is not even the boarding house issue, I think. If you ask Joe Prondak, would you try to talk to Joe about it? Because in reality, there's a house in my neighborhood, happens to be a two-family, but why are there 5 new cars there at times? 5 cars, not 1 or 2. So we have to
I have heard a rumor that there are unofficial B&Bs operating, and this would make them legal. I heard that rumor fairly recently, but I don't know if it's actually true or not.
Joe said what's...
So I'm not going to worry about it.
Joe Prondak said to me, what started this all off is the internet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, there's unofficial room swapping or house swapping things all over the internet. So, if you want to go to France, you can swap your house with somebody else, and you'll borrow their house in France. That happens all the time.
Bill, would you find out from Joe, please, what's going on? Thank you.
So,
My uncle does that with his house down the Cape.
yeah.
He's been all over the world because he traded his Cape house for Greece, for Indonesia.
Timeshare, they do it all the
There's
time.
also, there's also another, there's a couple of websites out there where if you're going to, say, stay in New York and you want to crash, people open their houses to you and you can spend a night in a guest room in a place in New York. I mean, and do that all over the world. There's all sorts of websites that do that, so.
So, as you say, I'm sure some of it's legal and some of it is illegal.
Exactly, but I think, I think there's a market for B&Bs out there. I think it would help the local economy. I think it would get a little revenue in for the town, and it might do us some good in saving some of the larger houses, giving an opportunity for people to do that. So,
Like the Boyle Estate.
there you
a
go.
B&B.
That would make a fabulous B&B. It needs a little work, I
Up on
understand.
Hillside Street, you'll have that all B&D.
Right,
You know?
A line of B&Bs.
There's a historic house right down the corner on Randolph that make a fabulous B&B if it were fixed up a little.
Okay.
So I'll bring the language in the next week, and you guys can have a look at it and tell me what you think. Last item on the agenda, master plan. So our master plan is dated 1974 with an update in 1977, and a lot has changed in 1977. And I think that it's time we started looking at our master plan and redoing it. And I also think with the CPA being on the agenda for the special town meeting, it would be a very good time to do a master plan as well and combine the 2 initiatives. I spoke at the selectmen's meeting last week and said that the planning board had not yet had a chance to fully discuss the CPA, but that we would before the special town meeting, but that individual members expressed their support of it. and also that I personally supported it because I see it as giving the town land use and planning tools that we don't currently have. I think a master plan would do that. It is also the case that grants for towns from the state and in some cases, I believe, from the federal government are dependent upon your master plan being consistent with the local regional plan, which ours is not. MAPC has come out with their Metro Future Plan, which we haven't had a chance to discuss, and since that's relatively recent and our master plan isn't, the two are most decidedly not consistent. So I think it's time that we look at this, and I hope you guys will give it your serious consideration between now and the next time we discuss it.
How do we pay for it?
We would ask for an appropriation for town meeting. I would personally suggest that it is, as it is a long-term plan, that money from the Capital Stabilization Fund would be appropriate. There is land use legislation, CLRPA, that's sitting around at the State House waiting to be passed with any luck. That would depending on your point of view, that would significantly change some of the land use methods and decisions. And I haven't looked at it in a while, but I believe at one point they were talking about it giving money. So we might not have to fund the whole thing ourselves, or we might. One of the interesting things about the CPA is they were talking about a lot of grants that you get nowadays requiring a local match, and that the CPA funds would provide a local match. It may be that the town would have to fully fund a master plan in order to be eligible for some of the other grants, and that's something we should look into. I wouldn't have all the answers by December 1st, but I would, or 15th, but I would have most of them by town meeting. And if we did get an appropriation from town meeting, I could have an RFP ready for July 1st, so that if we had the funding, we would be ready to go.
I think the state funded the last plan.
Yeah.
Al wasn't there then.
They don't have that funding anymore.
Yeah, there's
No,
less
but,
money
Ed
available at the
Strafer was
moment.
there, and he did
Yeah,
an
good old
excellent
Mitch.
job.
Yeah, and in fact, if you read the last master plan, we have accomplished some of the things that were on that
Police
master
station.
plan. Well, not just the police station, but that master plan in 1974 called for the revamping of the schools, and we have managed that. It also called for redoing the library, renovating
And I
and
think the
fixing the
town hall,
library,
too.
and we've
Tearing
managed
down the
that.
town hall. That
That
was-
beautiful
So-
town. Where's the picture? It used to be right there.
I don't know where the picture
What did you
went,
do with
so-
that, Emily?
I believe it's hanging elsewhere. So, at any rate, I think it's time. So have a thought about it. I'll get more information to you as we go along, and I hope you'll support it.
What did we do a few years ago with the MAPC?
We did planning, and
The
we came
community
up with
development
a
plan.
number of plans, and
It wasn't the master plan as such.
it wasn't
Yeah.
a master plan, but the last time we discussed the master plan was when we did the
Survey.
when we did the
Survey.
survey as a precursor of getting things
first
rolling,
step.
having determined that we weren't going to get any funding. So I think that this is exciting, that we're going back to the trough.
I'm excited.
We are going,
So the intent is that over the next couple meetings, we'll determine a budget that we want to, a proposal for funding we want to take to the warrant committee?
we have a little bit more time the next couple of meetings to do that. Their all-day meeting was, I believe, is the first weekend in February. It's around about the time of the special town meeting. I asked Phil to put a placeholder amount on our budget of $150,000. We may determine that we want less than that, but it's a good number. Our budget is due December 1st, so it was a good number to put in there for now. What we need to do is, at this point, simply vote, not tonight, but prior to January, we would vote to put it on the warrant. And then we have a little bit of extra time to discuss with the warrant committee how much we would want to do, because they will put the recommendation for the amount goes in their recommendation, not in their article. So we have a little bit of extra time to do that. Yes.
As a follow-up to it, Mr. Duffy just said, Executive Order 418 actually provided the community with $30,000 worth of transportation, open space, economic development, and housing, knowing that those four components are major components to a master plan. Many communities used it as a stepping stone. Some used the full amount to do one thing versus all four. Town of Milton had all 4 of those: transportation, open space, economic development, and housing. And it gave you GIS maps to locate different
Right.
wishes. It was a stepping off point to a full-blown master plan, knowing that a master plan was out of hand, out of reach for many budgets.
Were you here with us then, doing that?
No, it's
No, I actually worked for MAPC and was
That's it.
one of the authors to Milton's plan.
Right. We've had a number of stepping off points in the last decade, but we haven't done anything to pull
stepped
them
yet.
all together. We need to do that step. And, you know, there will be some people who say that an economic downturn is not the best time to start that. I would argue that it is precisely the best time to start that, especially since the master plan also looks at town facilities. I think planning now for when there's an upturn, planning now for when we have the, as we start to get the other tools we need to do some of this work is a really good idea. So on that note, I'll stop muttering about a master plan and we can move. Yes,
Did board members attend the meeting with the selectmen about the CPA?
I did.
I did.
Did you
and
report on that
Ed
meeting?
did. Yeah,
since I wasn't
absolutely.
able
I'll
to
do
be there?
mine and then
No,
Ed can do
You
his.
can do yours.
So we did, we had a presentation from the
Lengthy presentation.
On television.
from the Community Preservation Coalition, and I see some of these sheets of paper being passed around. It was a discussion of what the Community Preservation Act is, what the projects can the funds support. So the funds can support 4 different types of project. Well, 3 with a subcategory. So he said 4. So open space, historic resources, affordable housing, and then active, his 4th was a subcategory under open, active park space. But the key on that is that you cannot rehabilitate current park space, you have to build new. However, there is legislation in front of the legislature.
You can't use the money, this money to rehabilitate.
If
Right.
that legislation
But you-
passes.
that's tax
yes,
money.
Yes.
Unless that legislation passes.
Right, which would allow it.
If
Yes.
that legislation passes, that would allow it, yes,
Yes.
that's what I'm
And to
saying.
build
Okay.
new, they have to be built on property acquired with CPA funds.
Right. And so what you have to
So you
do
watch-
is,
You want to sit television?
Oh, no, I've known that for years.
he's an expert.
Do that. That's how my work is funded.
That's right.
The, of the monies that you collect, 10% must be used for open space, 10% for historic resources, and 10% for community housing. And the remaining 70% can be split among those categories. You can use the revenue stream for bonding purposes. So for example, you could go out for a larger bond and then the bonding payments can be made with revenue from the CPA.
Not existing bonding. You can't.
Not existing bonding, yes,
Right,
very
new
good.
bonding.
Why are we giving this presentation? Abby?
Watch the television. Watch it
I'm
on
so
television.
impressed. Yes, it's on television.
Come
Watch the
on.
television.
Great resource.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a quick presentation, not a,
I was going to
Repeat,
go for
not a
the full
repeat.
guide. All right.
not a recap.
I
of-
think I hit all the important bits. The important bit is, the last important bit is that it will be on the special town meeting warrant in January. And we will have a discussion and vote before then in case anybody at town meeting wants to know the planning board's opinion, which I'm sure they
So
will.
the selectmen
The selectmen
have
are putting it forward.
decided to put it
Yes.
on there to see whether town meeting wants us to put it on the April ballot.
Yes, town meeting has to vote whether or not it goes on the ballot in this case. The selectmen can choose to put it directly on the ballot, but the more common method is to take it to town meeting first. And I don't believe that the April versus the November has been settled yet. It's just taking it to town meeting first.
Okay, and the selectmen would support putting it on the ballot for the special town meeting, or bringing it as an article.
The selectmen have already voted to bring it as an
Okay.
article to the special town meeting, that's correct. So, yes, Ed.
More than half the towns in the Commonwealth now have it, and every year it's more and more getting involved in it. Let's say there's 150 towns that have it. There's only been 2 attempts to do away with it, and both failed. It is extremely popular, and it's extremely helpful, too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Even though it's going to be a little bit more money, minor compared to the total tax bill, but still, there are certain exemptions that will help different kinds of people. So it's
That's
not going to be a killer.
And the recommendation from the committee that looked at this was that Milton accept all the exemptions to help people out with the bills. So, and even doing that, we would get a significant sum that would allow us to pursue some of these goals that we currently don't have funds to pursue.
right.
So, anything else? Nothing? Do we have a town planner's report in 5 minutes or less?
Sure, I've been dealing with the wind turbine projects, paperwork, East Milton parking, paperwork.
Exciting new traffic plan in East Milton.
That's right. The selectmen discussed that as well.
Watching TV too.
Nothing else to do.
At a traffic commission meeting this morning, 36 Central Ave. Mr. Sullivan actually was going to ask you a question and he forgot.
Oh.
Under the affordable housing, we need to go back and, I think it's Alex and I need to sit down and have a discussion on local action units. Should these things be local action units? How far should the town take and move forward? Should it be a LIP, local initiative program, right?
Local
LIP.
initiative project.
Oh, new anachronism. LIP?
Yeah, it's a state
There you go.
program to subsidize housing without requiring the state to pay any money. Their
I can
subsidy
see
is,
that would be popular.
their subsidy is the valuable advice they give you over the telephone when you call up and ask about it. Isn't that sort of
about it.
the crux of it?
Fair enough.
But they require you to jump through a million hoops.
In order to get the advice.
In order, before they'll
It's
give you
will they
this.
accept the units onto the subsidized housing inventory list?
Right,
That would be our goal.
yes.
That is our goal. We actually changed the zoning a couple of years ago, that although we really want those units to be SHI, subsidized housing inventory, eligible, we will work with the developer to get the units. They're affordable. We know they're affordable. They don't necessarily have to be on the SHI.
It isn't insofar as practical.
Yes, that's right. I
or
remember the insofar.
practicable.
Practicable.
I'm still working with with their lawyer, with the state. I need a little guidance from Mr. Whiteside.
The same issue will
It will,
come in at 131 Elliott too, because there are
Yes.
requirements there.
Presumably, yes.
my phone is ringing off the hook because of something that wound up on the front page of the paper saying that I have units. I don't have units. I don't have paperwork to do these units.
That's right.
Well, at least you know there's a market.
I know, but I don't have control of these units, and people keep calling me thinking, I want one of those. I don't have those units. The traffic signage, Mrs. Donovan is right on the traffic signage. Those signs were ordered, and there is a 6 to 8 week backlog on 1 hour parking signs. So we've ordered them, we're waiting. Hey, we haven't forgotten them.
Okay.
There's a ton of them up Central Ave right until that. We could take one of those and put it right next to the building.
Maybe do
there.
every other one, take every
They
other one.
want
and
new
do all that.
signs because it's
No, I understand
It's
that.
shiny new
shiny.
district.
There's tons of signs out there that have been recently put up.
Or you
and
could get
move a couple
temporary
of them
signs and you could do those yourself.
with your magic marker and cardboard.
More important, where's Mrs. Donovan?
I have a question about about parking signs. I've heard from merchants in the Central Avenue area that they're really concerned about the parking stress that the new restaurant at the Fallon Building is going to put on the area, because they feel that the parking that was required is inadequate and it's going to suck up spaces. And then I mentioned that there are parking spaces behind 36 Central that are available to users of the commercial area, and nobody knows that. I wonder if there should be a public, we should ask the developer to put up a sign that says
One of those
public
blue
parking
public
or
parking signs,
something,
yeah.
so that people know that there's parking down there.
There you go.
You can always ask.
Because, I mean, nobody knows that there's parking there that's available.
It's a good
for
point. I
use.
mean, we required that there be public parking, but it doesn't do us a whole heck of a lot of good if we don't
Spaces.
actually tell people where it is.
We can,
22
we can
spaces.
tell them, but our decision, I don't think says that you've got to post a sign.
Well, we could request
Well, we can
nicely.
make sure our next
request
decision
it nice.
does.
Yes.
yeah.
Can you request nicely that they post a public parking sign?
I think I'd be reluctant to do that just because of the abuse of some of the parking that's down there now.
Oh, you mean people might park there for the
Park there.
MBTA,
Well, you get
Well, when they
enforcement.
don't find a public space there, they just go
randomly take any?
randomly take another one.
It's an interesting conundrum.
It is, but you've got T parkers, you've got the abuse with the sticker system. There is no way that there are that many people working down in that area versus how many stickers are down there.
I know.
It's,
Interesting.
I go down to count the different spaces at different times, to go back and look at times like you're talking about the restaurant. I don't see that as being an issue for those people. I have tried at all different times of the day to go down and look to see where that parking is. There is so much parking on that hill that
That's marked service zone parking, so
No,
the
but the other
public can't
side
park
is
there.
we're not, the restaurant's not open yet. I don't anticipate the restaurant opening until minimum March.
Yeah, I agree.
Not March, I didn't mean March, I meant May. Because it didn't get its liquor license yet.
right.
Right.
So they're not ready to go in. He wants to go in right now and go gangbusters.
I
I don't
understand.
see the liquor license
I
coming out.
understand that, but
that quick.
looking ahead toward when the parking becomes an issue, you know, and.
The traffic commission will meet before, while they're going through their construction, they'll go through and they'll make sure that,
Well, some of
Can we
that
release
service
some of
zone
service zone?
parking
Yeah,
can be
exactly.
restaurant parking.
Because that service zone
Or
parking is
just,
almost
you know,
never used.
1 hour parking or
Yeah.
2 hour
Right.
parking or something.
Exactly.
There's no
Yeah.
need
But it
for all
can
that
be,
service
it
zone
can,
parking.
it can be changed around.
the traffic commission actually asked the selectmen to take a look at a parking permit that would allow people to pay a fee and park for the T in some of those spaces.
Oh, that's an interesting,
Where that is, where that's going,
right.
I don't know. But there's your public usage of that hill.
Then you just
You're-
have
you're
to
between
up
two
the
spaces.
fine for parking to be higher than the fee, and
Yep.
more people would take advantage of the fee. That would work, I like that.
Yep. We
Well, I
had a-
think our first responsibility is to the businesses
Sure.
there, to
Right.
make sure
Absolutely.
that there's adequate parking for the businesses.
Right.
If
Well,
there's
the-
excess, that's one thing, but, you know, I think that's, you know, in terms of revenue for T riders, that's the T's responsibility.
Right, and we as a town the hill was just paved. We didn't mark it off yet. The
Right.
marking's due to go down, they're supposed to start marking this week, all over town.
Get it in before the snow's starting to fall.
Exactly.
I thought I saw parking delineation on
They
the.
may have already started. I know they did
thought
it
I
down in
did.
East Milton. I know that part of, anything that MWRA was supposed to do, those pieces have already been started. Some of the stuff that we've been doing, Pleasant Street, Elliott Street, those haven't been done, but I know that they've been out there measuring and marking.
I thought I saw it the other night.
It- it
You
could
just
be-
mentioned MWRA, there's constant water leak right at the bottom of the hill on Adams Street. You seen it?
No.
It's like a week, it's been just coming out of like a seam. You see it?
Do they know?
No.
Well, they know it now.
To their
They
attention.
know it now.
You think the MWRA watches
They're
our
watching
program?
our meeting.
Yeah. Everybody watches our
That's the
program.
first-
And
that's
it's right where the,
first I
si-
heard.
right right
Oh,
where
Mrs. Dunphy may be
Seriously.
watching.
By where?
All right.
It's,
By the telephone company.
oh no, it's down the other side. It's right near Algian Corner, is it?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right where that
Oh, Alginate.
set of lights on there, back heading up
Is
the
it,
hill.
is it not
Not a lot of water, but go ahead.
drainage?
No, it's right in the middle of the street, no. Because it looks like it comes from the seam of when they
Okay,
put one tire on the other, right in the seam.
all right. I will ask.
Anything else? If not, I've got one more thing that I remembered. So, all right, the thing that I remembered was Alex and I met with Steve Connolly at Kevin Mern's request last week. Steve asked 3 things, which he actually had asked at our last meeting. He wanted to know if we could be lenient on the 50% business requirement. I told him no. He wanted to know if we could waive the affordable housing, and I told him no. And then Alex walked in and he asked the same things, and Alex said no to both, so well coordinated. And then the other thing he wanted to do was to discuss the parking, which you have sent a memo to him on.
I have.
Yes, as to how flexible we can or cannot be with the parking.
Right, I simply said that the zoning says if you specify your commercial use, the board can determine the requisite amount of parking. And
Right.
it's only if you don't specify a commercial use that you apply the 4 per 1,000 standard. So they come in, they specify a use, we can then determine how much parking is necessary, considering parking sharing and that sort of thing.
So we are looking forward to his response to the board. So,
And then I got another question from him. He
Oh.
said, currently we're at 35 units, and the zoning says that you'll have affordable housing in the number of 10% of the total number of units, rounded to the nearest number. And 35 is the same distance from 30 as 40, and I suggested that, in my view, the tie goes to the applicant, and it would be 3 affordable units.
rather than 4, standard practice is to round to the
The even.
nearest even number.
That's what
That's
mathematicians
standard
do.
mathematical practice is to round to the nearest even number.
Well, I understand that, but the nearest even number is either 30 or 40.
No, it's 4
No,
rather
it'd be
than
3
3.
to 4. Because
What?
it's 3.5,
4 rather
so
than
it's
3.
it's 4, not 3.
The nearest number is either 3 or 4.
Right, so
And the
then, but
nearest
3's
even-
odd, so your number would be 4.
To the nearest even number?
Even number, that is standard mathematical practice. If it's 0.5, you round to the nearest even number.
I got to say that I think that the zoning, let me
Well,
read you
3.8
the-
is the next
let me
even.
read you the zoning,
3.8
just
is
to,
the next even number.
No, even whole
Well,
number.
but that would be 4.
Yeah, even
Okay, in
integer.
the Central Avenue planned unit development, 10% of the total housing units computed to the nearest whole number,
Right.
not even number, the nearest whole
Well,
number.
then you're still stuck between 3 and 4.
Shall be
That's
affordable
really
housing.
even.
I understand you're stuck between 3 and 4, and my view was that that the
I have a
developer
question.
gets the choice.
I have a question.
Yes.
Alex, you're doing your taxes. You come up and you get $3.50. You're going to put it on your taxes. What number did you put on your taxes?
It depends
Do I
whether
owe
it's
it,
your
or do they owe
refund or
me?
what you owe.
Here's this question. A 3 or a 4?
I think that the IRS has regulations that say that you round to the
Up.
highest
Right,
number.
up.
But
Ours is
I'm simply
silent.
saying that
Actually,
this
say
is
you.
not,
Ours is
this
silent.
is not,
I know that.
this is
You know,
not defined.
I would
Yeah.
say that I would be willing to discuss it at a full board meeting with Mr. Connolly present.
Yeah, I still think it's kind of early for that. I mean, we don't know how big the building is, we don't know how many parking spaces are
Yeah.
there, we don't know where the building is on the lot, we don't know anything
Right.
yet, and we've been at this for 2 years, so.
I understand.
So,
But
you
this
know, at
is,
some
this-
point-
This is in my view, this is, you read the zoning and you offer an opinion, and there's no reason for us not to offer an opinion. And my opinion is that the developer gets the choice, because it's halfway between 2 whole numbers.
Just on the subject of numbers, I asked him to present his next report to us in terms of a table, so that the numbers were more clear and easier to view and to compare against each other. So I think we should leave that open for discussion.
I agree.
Yeah.
I-
As we also discussed the
But
parking
I
and
do
the other
think, I do
things.
think that we should discuss it, because
I agree.
it isn't, or we can ask John Flynn what his thoughts are.
It does,
It
if
is a
we,
legal issue.
if we leave
What
it-
does it mean?
yeah, if we leave it open at the moment, it does allow the board a little bit more flexibility when looking at that,
Yeah,
which we
maybe.
may or may not choose to exercise.
All right,
so.
well, I've told him what my opinion is, but
Fair
I
enough.
haven't said that it's the board's opinion.
Anything else for tonight's meeting? In that case,
I move we adjourn, Madam Chair.
do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.